Attention travelers, there's turbulence ahead. How the U.S. government shutdown could interfere with your flight plans.
I'm just sick of it. It's like, what about us?
What to expect and what passengers are being told to do. New details about the murder of a prominent Sikh activist in BC, how British intelligence helped Canada collect evidence against the Indian government. A Supreme Court appeal to save a BC farm's ostriches rejected.
This is not Canada. I'm moving out of Canada.
The outrage and the next steps.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is a professional killing machine.
Plus, bear necessities, what one province is considering to control its grizzly bear population.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news from Ottawa. A Conservative MP says he is resigning. Matt Jeneroux from Edmonton was first elected in 2015 and was rumored to be one of the MPs who might cross the floor to join the Liberals, following Chris d'Entremont, who crossed the floor yesterday. That doesn't appear to be what's happening. Mackenzie Gray is following developments for us. Mac, why is Jeneroux jumping ship?
Well, he was under a lot of pressure, as you mentioned, Donna, from both sides of the aisle to either stay in the Conservative caucus under Mr. Poilievre and had conversations to move over to the Liberal Party to join Mr. Carney, as Mr. d'Entremont did recently. Just a couple of minutes before the first confidence vote on the budget came out, he put out a statement. I'll read out a bit of it now. I ran in the last election hopeful that Canadians would put their faith in a team led by Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives. I wanted desperately to play a role in that vision. Although the outcome was not what I anticipated, I have great admiration for the many remarkable individuals who were elected to the House of Commons on both sides of the aisle. With all this in mind, earlier today, I spoke with our opposition whip to inform my decision to resign as a member of Parliament. He also added in that letter, Donna, to have people not contact his family. Conservatives that have been potentially rumored to be potentially going over to the Liberals have been under immense pressure online. Mr. Jeneroux had closed down his Twitter account. He posted this on Instagram. Donna, this is another blow for Pierre Poilievre, who has had what is definitely his worst week since losing the election and losing his seat.
And just so I'm clear, Mackenzie, he is not saying that he is going to join the Liberals.
No, he's not saying he's going to join the Liberals, and we don't have a timeline on when he could potentially be quitting, which is important because he could still vote with the Conservatives to vote down the budget. That vote I mentioned tonight, Donna, in terms of what's happening in the House of Commons, the Conservative amendments to the budget have been voted down. Mr. Jeneroux did not vote in that, meaning we'll have to see what happens going forward. He could be one of the votes the Liberals need to either vote with them or not show up to continue to survive as government.
All right. Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thanks for that. We have new insight tonight into the information Canadian officials relied on when they accused India's government of being connected to the murder of BC Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Global News has confirmed what was first reported by Bloomberg News, that wiretaps and intercepted communications came from British intelligence. It was that information that helped Canadian intelligence agencies link the murder to India's highest levels of government. Jeff Semple reports on what those wiretaps reveal.
Just 1 hour after BC activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot and killed outside his Sikh temple 2 years ago, his close friends gathered at the scene and accused the Indian government.
Political assassination
Police at first had no evidence implicating India in Nijjar's murder, but Global News has confirmed that 1 month later, senior government officials received a call from London. The UK's Signals Intelligence Agency had wiretap evidence, recorded conversations from months earlier between individuals whom British analysts believed were working for the Indian government. Global News has learned the suspects allegedly discussed plans to attack 3 targets, an American, a British, and a Canadian Nijjar. All 3 were prominent members of the Khalistan separatist movement, calling for an independent Sikh state in India's Punjab region. Global News has learned British intelligence also captured a later conversation allegedly discussing how Nijjar had been successfully eliminated.
It's very strong evidence, and it's because it's coming from what we call a Five Eyes intelligence partner, in this case originating with GCHQ. So this is the gold standard of alliances and groups.
The 4 suspected hitmen arrested last year are alleged associates of India's notorious Bishnoi gang. This former CSIS executive manager says the alleged wiretap evidence potentially underscores the sloppiness of the Indian operation.
Doesn't surprise me is the, I guess you could say, ineptitude of Indian intelligence. We call it operational security. It's weak, it's sloppy.
After the tip from the British, Global News has learned that Canadian security officials collected their own intercepts and evidence and connected the plot to the highest levels of the Indian government.
Agents of the government of India.
The Prime Minister and later the RCMP then publicly accused the Indian government of orchestrating Nijjer's murder, along with a series of other violent crimes on Canadian soil. India has vehemently denied those allegations, and the Canadian government is trying to turn the page and reset relations. In fact, India's External Affairs Minister has been invited here to Canada next week to join the G7 summit. Donna?
Jeff Semple in Toronto, thanks. The Supreme Court of Canada has agreed to hear an appeal in the challenge of Saskatchewan's school pronoun law. In 2023, the government of Premier Scott Moe used the notwithstanding clause to shield its law governing transgender children. That law requires parental consent when a child younger than 16 wants to change their name or pronoun at school. Opponents argue it causes irreparable harm to gender-diverse young people. The Supreme Court will weigh that case along with a challenge of a Quebec law, which also invoked the notwithstanding clause to prevent public sector workers from wearing religious symbols on the job. The Supreme Court will not hear an appeal of an order to cull hundreds of ostriches at a farm in BC, and that means Canada's Food Inspection Agency will go ahead with it. It first ordered the birds killed last December after an outbreak of H5N1 bird flu at the farm. Millions of chickens and other birds in BC have been killed to prevent the virus from spreading, but the ostrich farm owners refused to comply and gathered vocal supporters. As Neetu Garcha reports, they've now exhausted all their legal options.
Walk away! It's not worth the paycheck!
Outside Universal Ostrich Farms near Edgewood, BC, protesters clashed with workers from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency.
My mom is about to lose everything she's ever loved.
The Supreme Court of Canada dismissed the farm's appeal application, clearing the way for the cull of about 300 ostriches.
This is the worst mistake in Canadian history.
The farm's owners say they believe the birds could hold clues about possible immunity to avian flu.
The ruling has come down right now, and maybe a miracle will happen yet.
This American businessman provided some 50,000 Canadian dollars to help fund the legal challenge, saying he wanted the flock's immune response to be studied, a long-term approach advocated by U.S. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. and media personality Dr. Oz, though many U.S. and Canadian health officials oppose those views.
The statements that have been made about the scientific value of these ostriches, particularly with regard to developing treatments or understanding H5N1 in humans better, really don't hold a lot of water. They're not really backed up with evidence.
The CFIA says the strain of H5N1 found at the farm is a new reassortment, a genetic mix of two avian flu viruses not seen elsewhere in Canada. The agency says the strain is linked to a human case in Ohio, which is why the stamping out policy or mass culls remains standard practice worldwide. According to the CFIA, Canada is now grappling with 51 confirmed bird flu sites nationwide, including 19 in British Columbia and 15 in Alberta. In High River, Alberta, town officials are warning residents to avoid contact with dead or sick geese after a spike in avian flu cases.
The problem solved, the last bird died.
Transport Canada has restricted airspace above the farm, and the CFIA is warning obstructing inspectors could lead to prosecution.
The CFIA is not going to break us. The CFIA has just given us more motivation than ever to continue marching on.
Supporters say they're not giving up their fight. Neetu Garcha, Global News, Vancouver.
Travelers within the United States are bracing for a widespread air travel disruption as the U.S. government shutdown drags on. Starting Friday, capacity at multiple U.S. airports will be cut by up to 10%. Air traffic controllers and airport security screeners are among the federal workers no longer being paid. Some have started calling in sick and others are reporting fatigue. Flight trackers show disruptions already happening in America's largest flight hubs today. Many of them are airports in the east, including New York City and Washington. More than 900 flights have been delayed today and more than 20 canceled. Canadian Airlines say it hasn't affected their operations, but passengers connecting in the U.S. could run into delays. Jackson Proskow reports.
The pain has been building for weeks at American airports, but few are prepared for what comes next.
They have to come to a solution. This is not good.
Beginning Friday, the 40 largest airports in the country, in cities like New York, Chicago, LA, and Washington, will reduce their number of daily flights by 10%, beginning gradually and ultimately grounding about 5,000 flights per day.
What do you think this is going to do to air travel in this country?
Not going to be good. Planning a trip to Paris in 2 weeks, so hopefully that won't be affected.
The slowdown in the sky has been ordered by the Trump administration as the U.S. government shutdown drags on, leaving air traffic controllers and security agents unpaid and increasingly unwilling to show up to work.
We're noticing that there's additional pressure that's building in the system. And again, our priority is to make sure that you're safe.
This is insane.
This week in Houston, security lines stretched outside the terminal. Passengers missed their flights. Once flight restrictions come into effect, the level of disruption will be unprecedented. The CEO of discount airline Frontier urged passengers to buy a backup ticket on another carrier, warning the risk of being stranded is high.
The fact that this political fight is having an impact and effectively penalizing every American in doing so is just not right.
All of it is happening just ahead of American Thanksgiving, when a record 31 million people are expected to fly. That urgency hasn't changed the mood in Washington.
No.
Democrats and Republicans remain deadlocked over funding the government as they scrap over protecting health care.
There is really nothing for us to negotiate.
Find a path forward, reopen the government, and address the Republican health care crisis.
We hope that they get it done so we don't have to deal with this anymore.
Disruptive as the flight cancellations may be, they could ultimately help reopen the U.S. government. The last shutdown in 2019 lasted more than 30 days and ultimately ended because of pressure on air travel. But Donna, officials warn if this drags on much longer, things could get even worse because they could be forced to close parts of U.S. airspace.
Okay, Jackson Proskow at Reagan National Airport, thank you. There is damning new information about lax security at the Louvre in Paris, where that dramatic daytime heist of the French crown jewels took place. An audit by the French government calls the theft a deafening wake-up call about the antiquated state of the security system and found that lavish spending went towards visible and attractive projects instead of keeping the place safe. Redmond Shannon reports.
You don't need a report to know that the Louvre failed last month. The thieves, dressed as construction workers, were in and gone in 8 minutes during opening hours on a Sunday morning. In their bags, 8 pieces from the French crown jewels. On Thursday, France's highest audit court laid down a damning criticism of the museum's security as part of a report on the Louvre that was compiled before the heist. The head of the court said the Louvre has been neglecting security for years while investing heavily in purchasing new items. Between 2018 and 2024, it spent $275 million on new art and exhibition spaces, but only a quarter of the 2,700 new items have been displayed. He said the Louvre is far from strapped for cash, but there should now be a better balance between collecting and securing. The report said just 2 in 5 rooms at the Louvre had cameras in 2024, and that the findings of a 2015 security audit are not due to be implemented until 2032.
You have to watch almost daily because criminals are incredibly good at picking up on vulnerabilities.
Museum security consultant Vernon Rapley says museums must move quickly with changing times, citing the recent trend of protesters throwing soup at artworks. He says security cannot be an afterthought.
What you need is a culture there where all of your staff are actively engaged in the protection of those objects for the benefit of future generations.
As for the stolen jewels, those are still missing. So far, investigators have charged 4 people in connection with the theft. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Frustration among Newfoundland wildfire survivors. Coming up, the help they say they need and how the situation keeps getting worse for some of them. The RCMP in Newfoundland and Labrador are appealing for information and surveillance footage as they search for the cause of a devastating fire at a seafood plant. The processing facility in St. Mary's that employed up to 350 people burned to the ground Tuesday night. Police are working with fire investigators to determine the cause. The Premier says he will speak to the federal government about extending EI benefits for the people who are now out of work. Just north of St. Mary's, it's been 3 months since a fast-moving wildfire ravaged coastal communities in Conception Bay North. The huge fires destroyed 200 homes. Our Heidi Petrachik recently went back to the area and spoke with people who are asking for more support to help rebuild their lives.
There is rebuilding in Conception Bay North, but
the damage will always be in your heart. The North Shore will never be the same anymore, not as far as I'm concerned.
The landscape marred by blackened trees, remnants of homes, and what was once a school.
I call it out there the scar, just the black swath.
Known as the Kingston wildfire, it forced more than 2,000 people out of their homes for almost a month. Long after residents returned, there is still need for a comfort centre.
A lot of people need help.
Folks coming for nourishment and mental health support.
The whole goal is to just make sure that everyone gets enough resources to get going, to get back on their feet. And that's the biggest struggle.
This was my grandparents' land years ago.
This is where Scott Chandler and his wife Robin Dwyer used to live. An insurance cap means they'll pay extra to replace the home destroyed by fire. They're still waiting for details to be finalized, living in a rental 30 minutes away.
I'm being optimistic, but we're almost, 3 months into this now, and it's getting harder and harder to maintain that optimism.
When these areas were under an evacuation order and the wildfire was still burning, crimes broke out. There were break-ins into empty homes, thefts of ATVs and other equipment, and residents say it's still happening.
Almost every day, someone comes in the comfort center and says, someone broke into my car, someone broke into my house.
The RCMP says it's continuing patrols in affected communities.
We need to know that government is going to extend the help that they've given.
Tammy Biam's business is in an unincorporated community which doesn't have municipal representation. Her business lost 2 cottages in the fire. She and others have organized to get the attention of Newfoundland and Labrador's newly elected Progressive Conservative government. Financial supports, the province has said, are being reevaluated in November.
Just still people going from house to house. They don't have anything.
We need our leadership out here. We need the province to step up.
Promises have been made. We want you to fulfill them.
Their message on behalf of residents of a scarred shore. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Small Point, Broad Cove, Blackhead, Adams Cove, Newfoundland and Labrador.
Ahead, the trail of destruction in Southeast Asia as the year's most powerful typhoon shifts targets. Central Vietnam is being slammed by Southeast Asia's most powerful typhoon of the year. It made landfall today, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to leave their homes and closing several airports. Vietnam has already been struggling with flooding and record rainfall over the past week. The typhoon stormed through the central Philippines earlier this week, killing at least 114 people there. In Sudan's civil war, a paramilitary group which is at war with the Sudanese military has agreed to a humanitarian ceasefire proposed by the U.S. The Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, says it looks forward to implementing the agreement and immediately commencing discussions to cease hostilities. The Sudanese army has yet to respond to the proposal, which is also backed by several Arab nations. Last month, the RSF seized the city of El Fasher. The group is accused of carrying out mass killings of thousands of civilians and other atrocities, including sexual violence. Nancy Pelosi, one of the most powerful figures in the Democratic Party and a former House Speaker, is retiring.
With a grateful heart, I look forward to my final year of service.
In a video message, the 85-year-old paid tribute to San Francisco, the city she's represented for nearly 40 years, and announced she will not seek re-election. Pelosi became one of the Democratic Party's key leaders and made history in 2007 as the first female House Speaker. She's also been a vocal opponent of President Donald Trump, leading 2 impeachment efforts against him during his first presidency.
Does Alberta have a problem with grizzly bears? The close calls that have some calling for change coming up on Global National.
It's considered a conservation success story, but it's now also a growing concern. Grizzly bears are making a comeback in Alberta, and as their population increases, so do conflicts with farmers and ranchers. Officials say all options are now on the table as they try to strike the right balance between public safety and wildlife recovery. Heather Yurix-West explains.
Nicholas Lagarde has been ranching this southern Alberta land for the last 7 years, but he's never seen this many grizzly bears on his property.
This year's been the craziest for us, so we've seen about 16 different individual grizzly bears.
Livestock guardian Doug Fenier is specially trained to keep Lagarde's cattle safe, but there have been close calls, like the time last spring when his fiancée and several calves were charged by a bear.
When I saw him coming uphill, he was standing on his back legs and looked super scary, and Fenya had to attack him or started chasing him away.
Well, there's definitely grizzly bears that are moving into areas that we haven't seen them for quite some time. And so it does appear like the population is rising and the distribution of them is spreading.
After a nearly 2-decade-long ban on grizzly hunting, Alberta introduced a special license program last year for hunting problem bears. One bear has been killed so far, but the minister in charge believes more needs to be done.
We want to make sure that we keep Albertans safe.
Is the province considering lifting the grizzly bear hunt ban?
We don't have any plans of doing that at this time.
The province says there are other options like bear habitat enhancement to entice bears away from campgrounds and farms. Part of the problem is Alberta does not have an accurate handle on how much the grizzly bear population has grown. The last time a count was done was several years ago.
It seems the population now is probably about 900, maybe 950 individuals. Nobody knows for sure. From a population conservation perspective, we have a ways to go yet before grizzly bears could be considered recovered in Alberta.
But out on the ridge, Lagarde and his neighbors have a different point of view.
I think now is the time to look at introducing sustainable hunt to manage the population.
The government says it will be updating its grizzly policy soon. Heather Yurix-West, Global News, near Pincher Creek, Alberta.
That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Air Canada showcases Topsail Beach in Conception Bay South, Newfoundland and Labrador, the Forks Market Tower in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Galliano Island in BC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.